Welcome to the David Toddcast. It's Friday, about 10 a.m. as the Steelers, the 3-0 Pittsburgh Steelers, get ready to take on the Indianapolis Colts this week. Thanks for being with me. We got a lot going on, and I promise, I almost guarantee that this will be the last podcast from the Turkish prison background. Among other things, look what we found. This was on my wall in my childhood bedroom. For those who actually can see, who are actually viewing it as a podcast, look at that, Terry, back in the day. That was on the wall right across from my bed. There was a little Roberto Clemente on the next to Terry, and we got some others, but I don't want to give away the entire treasure of what we're going to see Sunday after the Colts game. Hopefully, we got some great background. I've decided not to go with this. Could he have been a child star? Check that out. That's me also in searching for the childhood posters of Terry and some other to-be-named Steelers. We came up with that, which if you see on my Twitter feed, at David M. Todd, you see that I did a commercial back in the day when I was about 11 or 12 years old with John Stallworth and Rocky Bleier. And I wrote about it on Twitter and Facebook. But the gist of the story is I'm a little kid. This is the most exciting thing ever. You get to meet your heroes. And so I got a chance to do this commercial, and it was for Pittsburgh National Bank, where my father worked. So I had an in. That's why I got the role. It was not a big casting call. I had an in with the guy who was helping set up the commercial. So I'm a kid. I think we went out to Avonworth High School, and they dressed me up in this Steelers shirt. So for PNC Bank, if you opened a checking account with PNC Bank, I think if you put $500 in the checking account, you got this Steelers shirt. And so that was the advertisement. And so what the thing was I was a kid on a field just dreaming of being a professional football player. And I walk up to the line of scrimmage and I pretend to call a play, give it a little red 32 in my Terry Bradshaw accent. And they turn and I fake a handoff and they cut to a Steeler clip and Rocky Bleier's running through the line against the Oakland Raiders. And then they cut back to me and I'm running around the field and I throw the pass. And they cut to John Stallworth catching a touchdown pass in the end zone with, I think, Jack Fleming is they cut to actual game audio, Stallworth touchdown. And then I'm standing on the field and Rocky and John Stallworth come in from the sides and kind of tousle my hair, and then the commercial narrative says, open your checking account and dress like the Steelers or something to that effect. So this was one of the, most fun thing in the world. I'm a kid. I'd be sitting around watching a Penguin game, or I think it happened in the fall and the winter. And I would see these ads come on and have to yell at everybody in the house and tell them to come watch me on TV and think I was so cool. I loved it. But there is one funny aspect to this ad is Rocky, if you see the picture and it's on Twitter, if you see the picture, Rocky has his monster. Rocky's so big in that, he's just huge. And he has this Super Bowl ring on, and he comes in and he tousles me on the head, but he claps me on the crown, dead crown of my head with that Super Bowl ring, not intentionally, of course. And I'm standing there, and all I can think of is, the film's rolling, and I'm doing everything I possibly can not to cry. Tears welling up in my eyes. I mean, I really just wanted to cry. It hurt so much. So there you have it. A little bit of childhood stardom. My as my brother said, my 15 minutes of fame came early, as I got to do that when I was 11 or 12. But so the larger point is we're gonna work on the background. We're gonna have some different lighting. I can't make myself look any better, but that's what we got coming. And hopefully by Sunday night when we do the kind of post Steelers Colts recap. The other thing is I've thought a lot about what this podcast should be. There are plenty of sports podcasts. There are plenty of Steeler podcasts out there. So I would like, if you guys get a chance, to get any feedback that you can give me. I have some different thoughts about guests, about topics, about where we want to go, even where we want to go within the Steelers season and how we want to format this. But feedback is helpful on that for me to think about this. And so today, Friday morning, I just want to take inventory. What I think I can add value and make this interesting is just telling you what I think about where the Steelers are. I mean, I'm sure you get tons of content. Hopefully I can deliver some insight and something a little bit different that will keep you captivated for 20 minutes or so. So let's talk about where the Steelers are today at 3-0. And certainly, if you've been following this team from the beginning of the season, the expectations were that this was a team that was going to win 7 to 10 games. Question marks on offense with a solid defense with a high-profile defensive player of the year type guy in T.J. Watt. And an older Cam Hayward, a star in Minka Fitzpatrick. But then you look at the offensive side of the ball and you say there's nothing there. There's a guy in George Pickens who, does he take that big step forward in year 3? Because we saw a step forward. Everybody's seen the talent of George Pickens. It's a matter of consistency, but it's also clearly a question of what is the situation with the Steelers' offensive coordinator, who's going to be delivering the ball from the quarterback position. So even if George Pickens is an elite Randy Moss type talent, are they going to be able to get that talent out of him and put it to use for a team that might be the 3rd or 4th best team in the AFC North? Okay, here we are. Three weeks into the season, going into week 4, the Steelers are 3-0, and they have a 2-game lead in the AFC North. Look, to say nobody saw it coming is understating it. I mean, it's ridiculous. Everything that could possibly have gone the Steelers' way has gone the Steelers' way through the first 3 weeks of the season. Everybody knows the Browns are 1-2. The Bengals are 0-3 after that amazing game on Monday night where Jaden Daniels for the Commanders was unbelievable. And the Bengals put up 33 and lost at home and now have 2 losses at home. And play in week 5, they play the Ravens. They could be 1-4. Look, the season, it's not over because I think the Bengals are a good football team, but they're obviously in serious trouble. And the Ravens are 1-2 and they get to host the Bills this week. So Steelers are in the proverbial catbird seat with 14 weeks left in the season. At 3-0, they have a 2-game lead. You think about 14 weeks left in the season. I mean, 7-7 gets you 10. They win the next 2 or 3. Then you're talking about, can they win 11, 12, 13 games? Can they get a first-round bye? Could they possibly? I mean, this is not stuff that was remotely considered when the season started. So here we are. So let's take inventory as to why we're here in this spot. I'm going to just give you a kind of a run through from kind of top to bottom and talk about kind of what I think has been important and interesting about where we are in the season. So let's start offensively. Clearly, the quarterback position is 1, 2, and 3 in topics of discussion, and Justin Fields has been really solid. I think there's the ongoing debate here that's going to happen about Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. I don't think this is completely settled. I don't think that Justin Fields is going to be the quarterback for 17 weeks, barring injury, and that'll be kind of smooth sailing. I do think that it would be very difficult, and I don't, what I think and should happen and what Mike Tomlin do, all these hypotheticals, we can waste a lot of time on that. But what we saw in week 3, I think, is really important, both from a development perspective and a offensive coordinator, what they're trying to do perspective. I was super concerned in the first 2 weeks of the season that the Steelers, the way they were attacking defenses was exactly what we saw with Kenny Pickett, exactly what we've seen over the last 4 years. Try to be a run-first offense that's going to throw the ball to the outside the hash marks, and take the occasional deep shot. And as I talked to you about last week, look, if you're winning football games, it's hard to criticize the strategy that puts the win on the board. But the question is, are you going to be able to do things if you find yourself in different, more challenging circumstances? Are you going to be able to do the things necessary to win? And we didn't see that in weeks 1 and 2. We we saw a first half against the Broncos that I thought was really encouraging. And what I liked about that half was the mixing up of the play calling. What we saw in week 3 of the Chargers is really, for the first time in I don't know how long, got me somewhat excited about the Steelers offense. Sure, Mason Rudolph did some things at the end of last year that were impressive when they blew out the Bengals particularly. But right out of the chute, the Steelers kind of attacking the middle of the field, I think mixing up the play calling. And look at the situation. They're down 7-0. The Chargers have just scored. And they had a really big offensive series to me. It was not a comfortable situation being down 7 points, having the offense have 2 3-and-outs, and what were they going to do? And you saw Justin Fields make that pass all the way across the field from the near hash all the way to Scotty Miller, get that first down, and then the touchdown run where the play design for Justin Fields' legs to score the TD. That to me was some exciting stuff. And then we saw the rest of the game. They continued to attack the middle of the field. They continued to mix up, I thought, really well the play calling. And, they closed the game out the last 5+ minutes of the game by just hammering the ball down the Chargers' throats. So the quarterback position, where Justin Fields is, I think we've seen growth, and I think it's really exciting if you're a Steeler fan to think about where this may go. And I want to see that again this week. And this will be fun to watch. So let's think about, with this Colts defense, what the Steelers have shown is eventually they've shown they can run the ball. Now we'll see if they can get off to a better start this week in terms of running the ball, because they're going to play the 31st ranked run defense in the Indianapolis Colts. We're not going to see Isaac Seumalo this week. It's going to be the same thing. The question mark is going to be who starts at left guard. Is it going to be Spencer Anderson, who I think was erratic at left guard, or is it going to be Mason McCormick, who the Steelers drafted in the 4th round out of North Dakota State, which was a big surprise pick to me that they took a 3rd offensive lineman that early in the draft. And how's this for a fun fact? Mason McCormick last lost a game in 2021. He's won 32 games in a row. That his team has won 32 games in a row. That's pretty good. I don't think he'll get the start this week, but watch that matchup. But again, Justin Fields, the quarterback position, this development has been superb. Now the question is, are they going to be able to get his legs in the game? We have not seen Justin Fields run the ball effectively. That's probably, people talk about the development, what he's done in the passing game. I think accuracy and pocket presence have been really good. Everything you could ask out of an NFL quarterback coming into a new system with a new team who's not being asked to do a ton, but he's doing the job. He's not getting sacked. His sack rate's down substantially from what it was versus his time with the Bears. And he's not turning the ball over, obviously, the key, most important thing. You go back to the very first play of the season where they fumbled the snap and they got it back. Steelers have fallen on the 2 fumbles they've had this season, and they just got that one tipped interception where he tried to fit it into a tight window. So I love what we've seen out of Fields. Now, 2, let's watch this weekend against the Colts. Are we going to see more designed runs? Again, if you look at my Twitter feed, you'll see last night I put up a tweet about how on the Steelers' first series of the game, on the 3rd down, they had a 3rd and 5, and they pulled Anderson from the left side to the right, and he whiffed on his block, but it was a designed run for Justin Fields on 3rd and 5. Now, it's a bit of a conservative call on your first series of the game, but I think we need to see some more designed runs from Fields to get his legs in the game, and that's going to open things up. The other thing is, if they get this running game going a little bit earlier, you're going to be able to bring the linebackers for the Colts up, and that will create some space behind them. You know how happy I was last week that they attacked that with Freiermuth and, of course, with Calvin Austin and even with George Pickens in breaking routes, more in breaking routes. So Justin Fields, he gets a solid B+ for what he's done so far. He is the guy. He's going to be the guy Sunday. He's going to be the guy the following week against the Cowboys. I think it'll be challenging for Mike to make any kind of move if the Steelers don't have a losing streak. But I will say, I still think the question mark that we've, and this is still a legit question mark here after, 3 weeks, is Justin Fields capable of winning a game where, Buffalo, Kansas City, whoever it may be, that the Steelers play, the other team puts up 27 points against the Steelers. Do they have the offense that's capable of doing that? So those are the things to kind of watch for. Okay, so The quarterback position, really solid stuff. The offensive line, I think, has been as good as the Steelers could hope for with the changes and the injuries they've had. Broderick Jones had a nice game last week. I'm not sure why people thought all of a sudden Broderick Jones, because of one bad series, series of 11 plays where he underperformed with a bunch of penalties, all of a sudden forgot how to play football. Question, I think, was injury-wise, was he in good shape? Was he physically capable? He was really solid in the game. There are no issues with Broderick Jones at right tackle. He's there for the time being. Dan Moore's on the left side for the time being. James Daniels, excellent. If you've been, again, following me on Twitter, you see what Brian Ballinger's been putting up every week with Zach Frazier. Outstanding. Zach Frazier is going to be on the all-rookie team as the center for the all-rookie team. The question is he going to be on the Pro Bowl team for the AFC as one of the centers? He's been, A1 home run pick. Wide receivers, let's go to the running backs. Najee Harris. I am such a Najee fan in terms of how hard he runs. And I'm going to put up when we get this video stuff going on these podcasts, I'm going to put up what's going to be the save of the week for Najee Harris, because there's one run every week where Najee gets hit 4 yards behind the line of scrimmage, has to shuck off, 2 or 3 tacklers, and he ends up with a no gain or a 1 yard loss. And you look at the stat sheet, and it looks like a negative carry. And the reality is it's one of his best carries of the game. There was one later in the game against last week against the Chargers where he got hit in the backfield. He sprints it out to the right side, hit again, and manages to get back to the line of scrimmage instead of a 5 yard loss. That was Najee's save of the week, which is going to be a weekly factor. Najee's he is right in these categories where the Steelers' offensive guys need to be. He's one of the 10 or 15 best backs in the league. He's not an elite running back, but he's going to give you he's going to earn his paycheck every week. So I think Najee's been fine. And we're not going to see Jaylen Warren this week. He's banged up with a knee injury. We're going to see Cordero Patterson. And my takeaway from week 3 that is relevant is Cordero Patterson and Calvin Austin are much more physical guys than I originally gave them credit for. Cordero Patterson's in his early 30s. He's a bigger guy. He's 6'2", and he's tough. But at that age, you don't expect guys to be hammering between the tackles. And he did that really effectively late in the game in that last drive. And I expect the Steelers to go at the Colts just all day on the running game. Now, the Colts defense is a bunch of guys you've never heard of, honestly. If DeForest Buckner's out, he was their one recognizable name in their front seven that I think was a difference maker. So you're going to see the Steelers with heavy run. But what this does for you, clearly, is if the Steelers can bring heavy run, get the Colts, as I mentioned, 31st in the league in run defense. If the Steelers are able to run effectively, then we should see linebackers step closer up to the line of scrimmage, and that should allow the Steelers to go to town with play action over the middle field and take some shots deep. The one thing we didn't see in this in the game Sunday against the Chargers, we didn't see the Steelers take any deep shots. So I would expect to see maybe a little bit more of that this week. The receivers, that has been the topic all season about what are these other receivers doing, and they went into this game 3 with 5 catches for Zip and came out looking fantastic with the day Calvin Austin had. But I told you last week we would see Roman Wilson. We didn't. I was surprised. It turned out to be a little bit of an issue when Van Jefferson got poked in the eye earlier in the game. I think we will see Roman Wilson this game. 7 to 10 plays. I don't expect a lot, but he brings something bigger. Watch where they line him up. I think you'll see him primarily in the slot. I doubt you will see Roman Wilson on the field at the same time as Calvin Austin. Roman Wilson, Calvin Austin, Scotty Miller. Roman Wilson's a little bit of a different guy in terms of a bigger, more physical guy. But I give Calvin Austin credit for being more physical than I thought he was coming into the season. We've certainly seen that on the punt returns. But when he's on the field, if he gets his helmet and does get to play, I'll be interested in the formations that they use him. So that's another thing to watch for. Pickens, he is getting open. If you want to criticize the offense, they got to get George Pickens the ball more. They need to be throwing him the ball 5 times a half. He has done an extraordinary job with these next-gen stats. We really get a lot of information about capabilities. And as I've said all along, Deontay Johnson, one of his great skills is he's as good a route runner is in the game. That's not what George Pickens is known for, but George Pickens is getting open because guys are scared of him. They're flat out scared. We saw it with Patrick Surtain. He's given him a 9-yard cushion off the line on a 3rd and 13. Yeah, I get it. You're going to play the sticks a little bit, but they converted the first down. Guys are worried about Pickens' size and speed. Take advantage of it. Throw him the ball more. So receivers, then the last thing, the tight ends. Pat finally did a little bit in this last game. Darnell Washington is a weapon that I would like to see a little bit more from also. And what we saw on the goal line, I loved. Look, he caught the touchdown pass in Denver, the Steelers' first touchdown of the season. Then they line him up, as we talked about in the recap. They split him out, and he mauled his guy as Justin Fields walked into the end zone. So maybe a little bit more in the passing game from Washington and not just in the red zone. Another thing to think about on the offense. Defense against this Colts team, straightforward stuff. Anthony Richardson, the quarterback, he was their first-round pick out of Florida last year. I think he got hurt in the 4th game of the season. Crazy good athlete. This is a guy, I remember I was driving in North Carolina a few years ago when Anthony Richardson was a senior. He was his last year at Florida, and they were playing Alabama, and he was killing them because he was a dual-threat quarterback. He can run, he can throw, and I was like, this is a guy, you got to watch what he can do in the NFL. He is that kind of hybrid guy, the Lamar Jackson type of guy who could really be impactful. Well, unfortunately, concussion last year from Richardson. We didn't get to see a ton out of him, but he was winning football games and he was doing some good things. We haven't seen as much of that this year. If you saw the highlight in week 1, whoever they were playing, he stood and he off his back foot. He threw a football 70 yards. The number of humans who can do that is limited to count them. We literally could probably count them. But this is a guy the Steelers defense should feast on. He is not an accurate thrower. He's not great at managing the pocket. He's prone to throw interceptions. So, again, now talk about the defensive side of the ball. What have we seen from the start of the season? Defensive line, everything you could hope for. Cam, I don't want to say he's rejuvenated because anytime Cam played, he's been healthy. He's been great his entire career. I think the thing you look back at the Steelers and say, my goodness, they didn't play him the first 2 years he was on the team with Kiesel and who am I forgetting on the other side? Aaron Smith. They had defensive ends who were fantastic, but it took Hayward a while to get on the field. But he's been great. When he's been healthy, he's been great, and he's been great so far this year. The guy's a beast. You cannot run the ball over that side typically. Ogunjobi and Keanu Benson, great starts to the season. Larry O stays healthy. It's going to be a huge boost for the Steelers. So they haven't really had to go to a deep rotation in the defensive line. We've seen Mons Adams do some good things. A so far this season out of the defensive line. Linebackers, the whole defense has been A across the board. But the linebackers, TJ, he's getting chipped. He's getting doubled. He's doing his thing. Big moments, he makes his plays. The inside guys is, again, that was the question mark coming into the season. What can these guys do? And we've seen so far, Orlando Roberts I think Mike called him a teeth scraper after week 1 or 2. I love that term. He's willing to stick his head in there and make tackles. Exactly kind of what the Steelers prayed Devin Bush would be. He never was. What the Steelers, I'm not sure they've had you have to go back to Vince Williams. Vince Williams was that type of guy. Stick his head in the pile, be physical, make plays. And I think what they've done with the other 2 backers, you got Patrick Queen, the QB of the defense. Mike talked about him in the press conference. He's talked about him in the pregame last week when he got quarterbacks on both sides. He got Russell Wilson and he got Justin Fields on the offensive side. He got Patrick Queen as his quarterback on the defensive side. I was a bit critical in week 1 when he didn't make as many tackles. He missed a couple tackles, but the guy has stepped up and done his thing. And he's a guy who can run sideline to sideline. I still worry about the Steelers' ability to defend the middle of the field. And with the defensive line doing the things they're doing, it gives those guys a little bit more flexibility in terms of how they align and how they drop. But we saw Ladd McConkey last week, the Chargers rookie from Georgia, catching some balls over the middle where the Steelers continue to be vulnerable there. Deshaun Elliott, Beanie Bishop, some other guys filling in the middle of the field there. I don't think they've done a good enough job. Peyton Wilson splitting time with Landon Roberts more on passing downs. We'll see. The things I worry about are still those types of things, but I do not think the Indianapolis Colts are a team that's going to be able to exploit that against the Steelers. If I'm the Steelers, I have Queen and Landon Roberts in there 2/3 of the time, probably less playing time this week for Peyton Wilson. And I just say, look, here's a seven-man box, and I'll roll Deshaun Elliott down as an 8th guy in the box. Go ahead, run it on us. Go ahead. Run it on us. See, bring Jonathan Taylor all day long. We're going to stuff that, which means they're going to have to throw the ball. And if the Colts throw the ball against the Steelers are going to kill them. If the Steelers effectively shut down this run game, and this is a really good run game, Jonathan Taylor is one of the 5 or 6 best backs in the league. Quentin Nelson's one of the 3 best guards in the league. They've got a very good offensive line. So if the Steelers should roll the dice and just stick everybody up there and say, go ahead, run the ball, let's see what you can do. Because if the Steelers effectively shut that down, they are going to completely shut down this Colts offense. And if you make Anthony Richardson play from behind and have to wing it around, they've got one really good receiver in Pittman. Joey Porter is going to be following him around. I think the Steelers can shut that down. So A in the linebackers, the defensive backs. You know who we haven't seen a lot from so far this year with the defense being so good? We haven't seen a lot of Minka. And you haven't needed to see a lot of Minka. He's been given a lot more room to kind of play freely in the back with him. Deshaun Elliott, man, Omar Khan. I had my question marks about Dante Jackson and Deshaun Elliott, but through 3 weeks, super stuff from both of those guys, and that's given, Minka has had some freedom, but we haven't seen teams take shots down the middle of the field because Minka's there. The Steelers said they didn't want to do that against the Broncos because of Bates and Simmons. Well, I don't think other teams are doing that against the Steelers because of Minka. So those guys healthy. Beanie Bishop, he's the question mark there, still is. He's been okay, not great. The Steelers get through the next 5 games, and then they get Cam Sutton back, which will be an upgrade at that position and, something to look forward to. So, all right, special teams, Boz is Boz. He's been fantastic. How about the fact that in the punting game, you don't have to say twice a game, what the hell was that? I mean, twice a game, every Steeler fan was saying, what the hell is that for the last, it feels like 10 years. But special teams, really, really good stuff so far. So, all right, lastly, coaching. And this is another thing to keep an eye on a little bit about where the Steelers are and what Mike Tomlin's philosophy is. Is it possible? I want you to think about this and watch this. Is it possible that Mike Tomlin's offensive philosophy is a little bit more aggressive and open this year? And is that based on Arthur Smith? Is that based on who's playing quarterback? Is it based on the fact that Mike realizes that the offense has been absolute crap, and if you can't score 20 points in the NFL, that you're not going to win playoff games? I think I'd check all 3 boxes, all of the above. The thing that maybe signaled this to me was last week at the end of the first half when the Steelers called timeout when the Chargers didn't convert 3rd and 10. They ran the ball, and I was shocked that Steelers got the ball deep in their own territory. And Mike Tomlin, if you've watched the Steelers the entirety of his 18-year coaching career, if the Steelers got the ball kind of around 2 minutes left at the end of a half in their own territory, what was the first play? Every time, first play, wraparound draw, shotgun, sidecar, wraparound draw, and see if that got them 8 yards to kind of potentially maybe think about possibly being aggressive with the ball at the end of the half. That's not what they did. They called timeout with 40 seconds. They get it deep in their own territory. They're down 10-7, and Justin Fields isn't exactly, I can't say that Mike has shown that he's totally willing to take the training wheels off Justin Fields. And there he goes. He rolls him out on first. I didn't really like the play design of what they were actually doing, but it worked out that George Pickens freed up down the left side and Fields threw the ball to him, and holy cow, you're at midfield and there's 20-some seconds left. It was not typical Mike Tomlin offense at the end of a half. In fact, it was exactly the opposite of what I expected to see from Mike Tomlin. So that was one interesting thing. Then ended up, Boz tried the 7 million yard field goal and didn't make it, but the concept was good. The other thing is they did attack the middle of the field. They opened that up. They almost never did that last year. Is that Arthur Smith? Is that what the defense is offering? But again, this is a whole different style. So I think we've seen Mike be slightly less conservative in terms of how he's running the offense. The play calling's opening up a little bit. I want to pay attention to that this week, because the Steelers are going to run the ball against the Colts. They're going to be able to run the ball against the Colts, and the Colts are going to have to sell out a little bit to try and stop the run, and that should open up the passing game in a big way. I honestly think the Steelers, they talk about the dam breaking last week. This is the defense to break the dam open. This is a defense where if the Steelers show some ability to run the football early and use play action passes, this is kind of 350 yards and score 3 touchdowns and be able to stuff the run game of the Colts. This, to me, this is a kind of an early defining game to decide if the Steelers are a good team. Look, we've shown they can do the necessary things with being the things that Steelers have been over the last 5 years. A really sound defensive team, and just try to stay in the game offensively and win your fair share. Don't turn the ball over, win your fair share. This game, I think, could be a defining game for them to open this up and actually, score into the mid-20s, into the high 20s against this defense, against this quarterback on the other side who's prone to turn the ball over, and the Steelers could have them playing from behind and have big opportunities. So a couple just big picture thoughts. Terrell Austin, defensive coordinator, not getting him nearly enough credit. We're hearing tons of talk about Brian Flores and what he's doing in Minnesota, and credit to him. But because Kevin O'Connell's an offensive coach, Brian Flores gets all the credit on the defensive side for their 3-0 start. The Steelers, it's the opposite, right? Mike's a defensive coach, so Arthur Smith is getting a little bit of credit for the 3-0 start, although clearly the Steelers aren't winning with offense. But Terrell Austin not getting enough credit for what he's doing on the defensive side. Couple other points. How about the turnover battle this week, as always, will be decisive. The Steelers won last week with a negative turnover differential of -1. They turned it over once, that interception. They didn't get any turnovers for the first time this season. It's the first time in 19 games. They were 0-18-1 in their last 19 where they lost the turnover battle. Defensively, another thing to keep in mind as we go through the season and look at how things stack up. The Steelers' defense has been on the field. I think it's a crazy number. A crazy small number of plays that the defense was on the field for this past week. I think it was 45. 45. Typically, you're going to be on the field 60, the bad day, 70 plays. Steelers were on the field for 45 games, and I think they're already 60 snaps fewer through 3 games the defense has been on the field. You got guys like Cam, you've got older guys in terms of staying healthy. That's a huge benefit. I didn't mention the Highsmith injury as expected. He's going to be out 2, 3, 4 weeks, bet on 3 or 4. Couldn't be more excited to see Nick Herbig under the bright lights. Great last week in 15 snaps, whatever he got, less than 20, gets 3 pressures, gets 2 sacks, gets a strip. Fantastic. I've been not one of the guys who's super high on Alex Highsmith, I think he's a good football player, not a great football player. I expect Nick Herbig to step in and absolutely do the job on Sunday. Injuries, I don't think there's really anything else. As I said, we're not going to see Sam Alou. Michael Pruitt's out as well. So Roman Wilson, I expect to get a helmet. I think we've covered most of that. I don't know if I had any other topics. If you got a chance, last night, Steelers' opponent after the Colts this week will be the Cowboys on a Sunday night game. So the Cowboys will have extended rest. They beat the Giants last night. I don't think the Cowboys are a great team. They got a great player in CeeDee Lamb. They got a decent quarterback in Dak. They got a good offensive line. But certainly if the Steelers are able to take care of business this week, you got to feel comfortable about the Cowboys coming into town in Week 5. So, all right. I think that's going to wrap things up for us. Thanks for being with me. As if you're a Twitter user, I am tweeting all the time during the game at David M. Todd. I know some people follow along. Maybe that's your thing. If you do, check it out. If you could like and comment on the YouTube, and I am working on the RSS feed. I hope to have that. I promise. If it's not up for Sunday post game, it will be up next time I'm here after that, and we'll work on the distribution. The outside, we'll have Terry involved. Might have a little picture of me with Rocky and John. And I think the Steelers take this one. I think the Steelers put up some points this week. I think the Steelers win this one comfortably. So put me down for Steelers 27, Colts 13, and the Steelers go to 4-0. Thanks for being with me on the David Toddcast.